A short blog post was shared on a website called Hacker News yesterday, and without meaning to, it basically sums up why the tech industry is completely screwed.
Oh God, we're all gonna die?
I'm gonna go through this post and explain exactly why the picture it paints is dire, and I'll give you my take as a tech industry veteran. I'm a software developer with over 20 years in tech. And despite the fact that I make tech for a living, lately I find myself wanting to use less and less of it. So I call myself TechPhobe here on YouTube, where I call out problems with my industry. So hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on your notifications, because I wouldn't want you to miss a video. Are software engineering best practices just developer preferences? Any headline that ends in a question mark can be answered by the word no. Now, this question gets asked a lot, and it can be appropriate depending on who's asking. It's usually asked by managers or by people who don't write code. And if so that's you, then you're in for a treat, because I'm going to explain exactly why this idea that there's more ways to skin a cat and so every opinion or solution is valid is complete stupidity when it comes to coding. And the fact that it's being asked by a software dev who wants us to genuinely consider this idea scares the living hell out of me. Let's read it so I can explain. My housemate the other day asked something to the effect of, how can software engineers call themselves engineers when there's no rules, governing bodies, or anything to stipulate what true software engineering is? The parallel he drew was to another friend who's a civil engineer. His friend had to be state certified and build everything to certain codes that stand up to specific stressors and inspections. This is dumb. If this guy's housemate works in science or tech, then he should probably be fired and maybe even put into an insane asylum for his own safety. To understand why, let's look at the definition of engineering provided by the American Engineers Council for Professional Development. The creative application of scientific principles to design or develop structures, machines, apparatus, or manufacturing processes, or works utilizing them singly or in combination, or to construct or operate the same with full cognizance of their design, or to forecast their behavior under specific operating conditions, all as respects unintended function, economics of operation, and safety to life and property. So that's a very wordy and extremely precise definition. So according to this definition, for us to decide if coding fits, we need to answer 1. Does it apply scientific principles creatively? 2. Does it do so in order to design or develop structures, machines, apparatus, manufacturing processes, or anything that makes use of those things? And 3, does it need to take into account unintended function, cost and efficiency of operation, and safety to life and property? Yes, yes, and freaking yes. So what is software? I don't want to get too academic, but the idea is you need a machine that performs some intended function. But machines are expensive and time-consuming to design, and building tons of them would take up a lot of space. So wouldn't it be great if we could make one machine that can do many, many things? So we used, wait for it, to create a way that we could make one machine do lots of different things. And as for safety to life and property, well, not only can programmable machines be physically hazardous depending on what they do, but we do our banking, our shopping, our investing with them. We keep our private and sensitive data with them. So you bet your ass mistakes with software can be costly. And so yes, of course, software creatively applies scientific principles, performs an intended function, and takes economics of operation and safety to both life and property into account. The fact that you don't need a license or a state-sanctioned certification to be a software developer doesn't mean that software development is not a type of engineering, or that we can't be objective about what software engineering means. But it actually gets even dumber than that. I gave him the usual answer about how software engineers deal with low stakes. Low stakes. Low stakes. I could point out examples where software errors have actually cost human lives, but I don't even have to. I'm actively working on a project right now that's just building a marketing app for a major retail client. It can't kill anyone, but since this has to do with advertising, a mistake in the pricing algorithm could theoretically land our client an automatic $15 million fine from state regulators. I seriously hope that the idiot developer who wrote this blog post isn't touching banking, payment processing, personal identifying information, email, operating systems, human resourcing software, software used by police investigators, or any number of systems that could actually affect a real person's life. Okay, let's try and get through this. I gave him the usual answer about how software engineers deal with low stakes and high iterability. Okay, let me explain what he means by high iterability, and then I'll explain why that's another incredibly stupid statement. The fundamental reason that software exists is because it can change. Programmable computers exist so that their intended functions can be modified without needing to build a whole new machine. So software and the concept of change go hand in hand. And what he means by high iterability is that we start at nothing and we write the code to build a version 1, and then we continue to build new features and changes on top of it. And we call that process iteration. So here's my question for this moron. What allows for iterability? How do you write software that can be iterated upon quickly, easily, and cheaply? That is a huge part of what this broad umbrella of best practices entails. All right, third attempt at getting through this one sentence. I gave him the usual answer about how software engineers deal with low stakes and high iterability compared to civil engineers, but honestly, he has a point. No, he doesn't have a point. He's stupid. Software engineering is really frustrating because there's basically never a right answer. How does this guy function? As if we don't have means to set objectives, measure results, and optimize solutions? It's obvious to me that this so-called No. He does not get to call himself a software developer anymore. I'm taking away his software developer card. He does not have the right, because he obviously doesn't know what software development even is. And it's really obvious to me that he doesn't have a background in computer science. Computer science and the whole profession of software development that grew out of it, it came straight from mathematics. Computers are called computers because they were invented by mathematicians in order to perform complex calculations. And a computer program is just a collection of algorithms, which are just instructions telling the computer how to perform these various computations. So there's an entire field of math that deals with what software developers do every single day. Things like Boolean algebra, algorithms, data structures, and how we find and optimize the solutions to various recurring problems that come up when developing software. And so most decisions come down to whatever the senior engineer wants. And now we get to a whole new problem and why this one blog post shows us why the entire industry is screwed. Shit engineers who are not teaching the younger generation how to do it right. And it's likely because these so-called seniors are themselves incompetent, or they might be good but just don't care enough or have the skills necessary to mentor and coach the younger generation. And if you don't take the time to teach and explain to the newbies why we need to do things a certain way, well, they're going to do it their way because they don't know any better. And then your private nudes will get hacked and posted to Pornhub. This is probably why people feel imposter syndrome so much in coding. You can't do it correctly if correct is whatever the guy who's been here longer wants. And finally, we have a good point. If this kid doesn't understand how to objectively measure the correctness of a given solution, the maintenance, performance, and security objectives, and if he's just chasing various fashion trends in our industry, trying on different solutions like clothing to see what he likes, and if that's what he sees everyone else doing, then of course he's going to have no easy way to relate what he does for a living to concrete objective engineering concepts. So after this, he goes into specific examples of programming issues that have come up at his work. Now, I'm not going to cover that section in this video because it'll only be interesting to programmers. Although I do want to acknowledge that he does correctly point out something weird and stupid that a so-called senior engineer above him told him to do. And so I'm actually starting to feel sorry for this guy because I think that he might just be the victim of really bad leadership. But he does include this question. How about testing? Good? No? And I'm going to leave you with that. Leave you to sit with the thought that this professional software developer who might be working on your banking software, your email app, or the code that processes your credit card when you buy on Amazon, he is questioning whether testing the correctness of software solutions in general is a good idea.